um, the whole idea of this is for Christians who are in some sort of leadership role, and somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I think I need some counseling. I need some counsel. And you're like, okay. And you want to help them and you want to do it, but you're not really feeling either adequate or empowered or educated or something enough to kind of be cohesive. This is just a broad-based overview. And that's just kind of my contact information. So it's to help pastors and leaders effectively counsel biblically. The three things that we're covering is know your limits, know your tool set, and know how to release. So we covered know your limits in the first one. We covered most of know your tool set in the second one, and then we're going to cover the rest of know your tool set and know how to release in this one. So really looking at how many hours a week, how many minutes, how often, how long, who you can't see, giving yourself permission to put some boundaries on what you're willing to do and even capable of doing. We talked about the nature versus nurture. We are designed by God, and he gave us an identity. He gave us a sense of being, and there that can be rediscovered. And nurture does play a large impact the way that you're nurtured. But if you have to say, is it one or the other? It is nature, because we're designed by God. And then if we're malnurtured, then issues show up. And this is really helpful to understand when people come in, they say, you know what, I'm so jacked up, I'll never get help. Because I don't believe that. If you have a biological issue, then typically there's medication or something that will help with that. And if you have a non-biological issue, then whatever you learned can be unlearned and relearning good new things. So this goes a little bit more into the whole nature concept. So I really want you to understand, though, that anemia, thyroid issues, vitamin D deficiencies can mimic depression. So always have people go and get a physical if they're coming to you and they seem depressed. Really looking at where did the nurture process go wrong? So parenting and trauma. I cover a little bit about, what God's design for parenting was, and then any kind of trauma that they might have lived through. And I also talked about how to take an effective history. So you have the tool or something to look at that will help you understand them better, and have that handy before you ever counsel somebody, and then just give that to them if you agree to that, and say, okay, can you fill this out first? And it really gives you just some insights and helps you be prepared better. And these are just some of the issues that are caused by identity issues. And so I talked a little bit about these problems, because they're culturally, people will accept certain things like shyness. They say, oh, well, they're just shy. Well, that's not necessarily true. And really looking at what is the underlying problem. And then also being able to confidently speak the truth. We know the truth. The truth sets people free. We need to be confident in the way that we proceed. And this is where I want to pick up today, where we talk about identity abuse and the restructuring process. Now, many of you have probably heard my story about the day my mom confronted me in front of my dad about my dad molesting me when I was about 8 years old. And really understanding how that incident really changed my perception of myself and impacted really the trajectory of my life for many, many years. And then coming to the realization that as a professional, I've had these people who are stuck and not being able to help them, and hearing God tell me it's identity abuse. And I personally would have never put those two words together. I personally wouldn't have. And that's why I tell people all the time, I truly believe it was God's revelation for this moment in time to help Christians understand that identity abuse inhibits so many things in our growth process. God built our identities. He's the one that designed us. So I love telling the story about the day that God made you. And I'm going to tell you the story about the day that God made Pastor Sarah. Okay. Let's see if I can do this just for a second. All right. So there was a day that the God that made the mountains and the oceans and the seas and the flowers and the trees and the universe, the stars and the flowers, stopped everything he was doing. And he said, I'm going to make somebody new, but I'm going to make it Sarah. And he thought about you. And he took the cells of your body and he swirled them in his hand, and he thought about the color of your eyes and the color of your hair and the shape of your toes. And he was so excited. He's like, angels, check it out. I'm making someone new. I'm going to make me a Sarah. And they're like, wow, God, you've never made anything like that before. And he says, no, Sarah's different. Sarah's different than anything I've ever made before. And the way she sees the world and responds to the world is going to be different than anything I've ever made before. And he thought about your favorite food and your favorite color and your favorite animal. And he says, this is good. He says, Sarah, I love you. I love you so much. Everything about you matters to me. The things that bring you happiness and joy, but also the things that bring you sorrow and pain, it all matters to me. And Sarah, it's my hope for you, as it is for everyone, that when I put you in the world, that you have two parents that tell you every day how much you matter to me, every day. Now, some parents will do their job really well and other parents not so much. And some parents aren't around, and then sometimes bad people do bad things to good kids. And Sarah, the world's going to come along and say, you don't look right, and you don't sound right, and you don't live here, and you don't know these people, and you don't have this stuff. And every day, thousands of messages will bombard you. It might get really hard for you to hear my voice and to remember how much you matter to me. But Sarah, I want you to know that every moment of every day, I'm right by your side. No matter where you go and no matter what you do, I will never abandon you. And I've also got all these angels that can come and minister to you. All you have to do is ask, and I'll be right there. And Sarah, I also want you to know that I will never be disappointed in who you are. Now, I might be disappointed in what you do or what you think about or what you say, but I'll never be disappointed in who you are. Because you, Sarah, are exactly the way I created you to be. And I am your biggest cheerleader. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again someday and welcoming you home and giving you a great big hug. And I hope you remember that every day for the rest of your life. Now, that is based on Psalm 139 and the intimacy with which God created us and how intimately he knows us. And when we receive that to the intent that God desires us to, then we'll be able to truly help people rediscover really who they are without all of the noise of culture. Now, again, really looking at Psalm 139 and taking somebody through that process and then asking them about their belief. The reason why, I talk about identity abuse is because the issues that it creates, there's the hand of God. It creates a lot of issues that I'll cover here in a moment. It says, if your identity was not nurtured as God intended, your identity was abused. So God gave you this identity and he expects that to be nurtured. Who you are, your favorite color, your favorite animal, who you are, he's expecting that to be nurtured. When your God-given identity was abused, neglected, or traumatized, it's going to impact a lot of other things. And this is what is so important to understand. It may feel impossible. It may seem impossible. People will say, I can't receive that. It will feel impossible to receive love, to be worry-free, to feel safe, to be confident, to be hopeful. They'll be truly perceiving that this is impossible because it feels so true. And really looking at what are the negative self-thoughts? What are the negative self-thoughts that they brought out of that experience in life? And a lot of those that I put on here, I'm unworthy, I'm unsafe, I'm too broken, I'm unimportant, I'm worthless, I'm too hurt, I'm damaged goods. A lot of these identities, like really the identity issues that they struggle with. And then be able to just ask them, are those thoughts from God or from the enemy? And again, it's the critical thinking analysis. Can we critically think about what we're believing instead of believing what we feel? It might feel more true that I'm unlovable than the actuality is that you are lovable because God loves everybody, right? And we might feel unlovable, and really being able to say, what is the thought that correlates with that emotion? And being able to then identify where that thought came from. I tell people all the time, we must choose, right? We choose to believe the truth, even if it doesn't feel true. That's the dilemma. Can I believe something that doesn't feel true? And that sounds irrational. And if your identity has been damaged, it's gonna feel that way, truly gonna feel that way. There's no way that God could love me because I've been so unloved by the people that were supposed to love me. I truly believed, because I was raised by, I was adopted by these people, by the way. I was adopted by a child molester and his wife. And I really truly believed that I would never become who God intended me to be because I was so damaged. But the reality is that who I am is the me inside. I never changed. I am still the me that God designed. I have always been, and I always will be the me that God designed. And I think really understanding that from a very clinical, analytical perspective will set a lot of people free. And this is why I chose that my life verse. The truth will set you free. It doesn't say maybe will set you free, eventually will set you free. It just says the truth will. The truth will set you free. And these are the 4 things that if you want to write something down, I used to make these on little tiny cards that you could like stick in your Bible or keep in your purse or something to really just genuinely help people. So facing the facts, what really happened was my identity abused. So just facing those are the facts, and then knowing God. Am I intentionally listening? Am I intentionally leaning in? Am I worshiping him and praising him? And then, and so we have the clinical side, and then the knowing God side, the spiritual side, and then grieving the losses. This is an important part of my masterclass that we go through this process of identifying the losses that we've had because of what had happened to us at a younger age, and being able to say it, that innocence. So I lost my innocence, and learning how to grieve that loss. I also lost healthy parenting models. I did not see healthy parents in action. So I didn't receive that information that is intended by the healthy design of the family that God created. So the things that normally we would absorb by just being in these healthy environments, I have to now go and learn. And that creates a challenge, because I don't know what I need to learn. I need to say, okay, what is healthy parenting? I need to know, what does a healthy mom look like? What does a healthy dad look like? What does healthy marriage look like? All of those things were not part of my growing up and absorbing that naturally. So I have to go and intentionally go and find that. And that is challenging. But the more you can identify those losses, the easier you're going to be in being able to educate yourself properly. And then practice the truth. I tell people all the time, the concepts are super easy. The concepts are super easy, but that doesn't mean that the practice of them is going to be easy. It's going to take time and energy. Hey, Marilyn, it's going to take time and energy and concerted effort to continually remind yourself of what is true, and say, I'm not going to believe what I feel, but I'm going to believe what is true. And I listened to a certain sermon this morning, and he was just really hammering home. It was an Easter sermon. I was just poking around today, and just really hammering home, behold, I make all things new. Make all things new. And can we really say, I'm going to receive from God what he says is true about me, and not what messed up people or messed up circumstances or unhealthy people delivered to me or exposed me to, and really leaning into that. I hope that you see that this is a very analytical, keeping people in their thinking process, rather than really kind of digging through all their feelings. Because that once you get into feelings and you're trying to fix somebody's feelings, it gets really, really messy. All right, so facing the facts, knowing God, grieving losses, and then practicing the truth. All right, and then the last things, we had those 3 things that we were doing. This is the last one, very super simple. Know how to release. Know when enough is enough. Know when to say, I need to end this. And the first one is stick to your limits. Now, at the very beginning, I showed you the list of limits that you get to provide for yourself. These are healthy boundaries for you as a Christian leader to be able to say, I need to have healthy boundaries about how much I'm giving to other people, and then stick to that. It's totally okay. Totally okay. And in the Christian world, we're fraught with codependency, because we feel guilty if we don't give and give and give and give and give. And even Jesus stepped away, and even though he saw the crowds, and he had compassion for them, he still stepped away and went to a quiet place and spoke to the Father and refreshed himself. And he walked across the water. Why? Because nobody could follow him there, right? And being able to say, I'm going to stick to my limits, and then have a referral list. It's really great to have a referral list before you get into ministry. It'd be really great. Or find out whoever you work with, who they refer people to. Have a very concrete list. One of the things that, like I said when I first started this video, before the error showed up, was that I did this because so many Christian leaders will not actively pursue help. And most of the time it's coming by word of mouth. Hey, I've got this issue. What would you do? Do you have a book I could read? They don't go and actively find counsel. And that's what Christian leaders really struggle with. And being able to have a referral list and be open and honest, say, hey, if you need help, these are the people who I know can give it. And then use small group support. Small groups are an amazing way to grow with a cohort of people all together. I've just seen some amazing things happen in small group times where we've had topical things. And it was hard for me because I'm a therapist and a pastor to go in the small group setting. And I try really hard not to talk because I wanted people to process and sit and listen. And this one particular group I was in with some professionals, and listening to them talk about the dynamic of their marriages and some of the anger issues that they have and how it played out on their kids. And so having the reality of other people who struggle with the same thing that you're struggling with normalizes it. In that way, you don't personalize it and say, I'm so bad, I'm so broken, look at me, I can't ever be fixed. But you're like, wow, they have that issue. And oh, they have that issue. And it gives you that permission to say, okay, how about if I focus on resolving it rather than focusing on how bad I am? And it's super, super helpful. All right. I always tell people to say these three things. I am uniquely valuable to God. So I am eternally and uniquely valuable to God. He made you unique on purpose so that he can enjoy you for eternity. All right. And the second one is the evil always lies, always, always lies. His native tongue is lie. When he lies, it's like it's normal, right? Evil always lies and uses emotion to provoke us to be stagnant. Instead of going and taking action, he's like, oh, wait a minute. Well, think about this and what about that? And what are people going to think? And right? He only uses emotion. The enemy only uses emotion. And we can choose to believe truth. We can choose to believe truth. And if you need any more support in this, feel free to DM me. And again, you can go to my website at identityabuse.com. And there's the video of the story is there. There's some other helps, like right on the homepage. So I hope that was helpful for you. And if you, again, have any questions, just let me know.